There's almost 30,000 people buried out here in the cemetery, and they all have interesting stories. But amongst the most interesting is probably Mr. Butler here, James Butler. Butler was a miner who is responsible for what's called the Tonopah Gold Rush. And as the stone suggests, $250 million worth of silver was taken in gold, taken out of Tonopah, about half of it out of his mine. But Mr. Butler dies in 1923. And that's where our story begins, over here in the archives. Mr. Butler, when he died, was brought to this building to be held until there could be a burial. That is where the beginning of the real story is. When Butler made his discovery and was a very wealthy man, he was in a city in Nevada, walking on the streets, and he saw a man and a woman fighting in the street. And he thought it was unfair, and so he shot the man, killed him. Turned out it was her husband. A little while later, he married her. Now, it is a strange marriage because she had some children and they never quite warmed up to him. That's a little hard to understand, I guess, but it was never a real warm relationship. I believe she preceded Butler in death, but on his death, these children became the heirs to Butler's fortune. The city was all abuzz because there was rumors about that Butler was going to be buried in a solid silver casket. And so the children who weren't around here anymore, they were in fact living in Canada, were contacted and asked, when are you going to do this? And, is there going to be a silver casket? Well, we're working on it and it's not ready yet. Well, that went on for 10 years plus. And Mr. Butler stayed in here waiting to be buried. The city health officer finally came in and said, enough, or the county health officer said, enough, put him in the ground. After so many years of being at rest in the chapel, it was finally decided to put Mr. Butler in the ground. And he was buried here in what was known as Pauper's Field. After a good many years of being here without a monument, the city of Sacramento and the volunteers, actually really it was the volunteers here in the cemetery, who decided he needed a monument, and they worked to raise the money and got some donations, and they built this monument for him, which incidentally has the mule on it, which supposedly found the silver. So it was done, it was ready to be installed, and the week before it was installed, unfortunately the city had poured a concrete pad on top of Mr. Butler's grave and installed these porta potties. So we had to move him a few feet over. Actually, we didn't move him, we just moved the monument.